I have never been more hyped for a game than I was for Super Smash Bros. Brawl. I passively mentioned in the intro for the first video of this series, but back in 2007, Sakurai ran this thing called the Smash Bros. Dojo, which was a website that would share new information about Brawl every weekday for almost a year leading up to the official release. I had this place set as my homepage from day one. I would read it, reread it, and then jump over to forums to speculate on it with other basement dwellers. One issue, though, was that these info drops came out at 12 a.m. Pacific time, which meant it was about 3 a.m. in the Eastern time zone where little school-aged dunce lived. That didn't stop me, of course. I was an impatient little goblin who would set an alarm every weeknight so that he could get the latest scoop as soon as physically possible. Sure, I was supposed to be sleeping so that I could wake up for school in about 4 hours, but it was more important, in my young mind, to be the first person to know about whatever wild new feature was to be revealed next. The reason I'm bringing any of this up is, if there's a single person to blame for the undeniable damage that was dealt in the form of sleep deprivation to my young, developing brain, that individual is Masahiro Sakurai. So, if any of you want to blame someone for this video series, or honestly, the channel in general, take it up with him. Anyway, let's start back on the list. At first, I assumed Meta Knight would be totally vegan, but if you zoom in real close, there are these little leather straps on his boots. Unfortunate, because otherwise I can't find any other offenses on him. Like with my tiering of other characters from vague series in this list, we can't be sure if that leather is synthetic, so Meta Knight lands himself in the questionable tier. Pit's got leather all over him. Belt, armlets, sandal, boots, there's also some fur there. Really not much to say about Pit. I tried diving into the Kid Icarus wiki for more detailed info, apparently called the Divinopedia, but as expected, no definitive answer on this matter. While unlikely, it's conceivable based on some of the weird tech in the series that this stuff is synthetic, so I'm throwing him in the questionable tier. Okay, so Dark Pit is literally a mirror of Pit. There's really no reason to rehash any of what I just said, so we can go ahead and throw him into the questionable tier.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I'm just fucking with you. This one's gonna be insane.
fasten your seatbelts.
Dark Pit, according to the Divinopedia, was manufactured by the Mirror of Truth just as Pit destroys it. And in the associated cutscene, you can clearly see that Dark Pit is fully formed and fully clothed from the moment of his creation.
Hello.
This would mean that the leather he's wearing was for certain not created from tanned animal hide, but rather, I don't know, it was brought into existence by whatever magic the Mirror of Truth uses. While the Mirror of Truth does seem to be like a bad guy tool within the series, the leather it creates falls into a strange realm of theoretical vegan philosophical shitposting that I'm not even sure how to process. Like, seriously, I've been sitting here staring at my script, debating in my head how I should interpret this one for a while now. On one hand, the leather Dark Pit wears wouldn't exist if not for the initial leather that Pit is wearing. Even though Dark Pit's leather is obfuscated by 1 degree of separation, it doesn't change the fact that an animal likely had to be skinned for the Mirror of Truth to be able to copy it in the first place. On the other hand, if there were a real-world tool that could copy a single instance of leather, or hamburger, or shrimp fried rice, into further instances without necessitating the death of an animal, I know that I for one wouldn't get hung up on any potential slight non-vegan hypocrisy that comes with its usage. The very existence of such a tool negates future suffering. To criticize it would feel like a non-issue when you consider the sort of impact such a tool could have. Additionally, even though I'm not factoring in final smashes because, nobody plays with them, Pit rides in on the unicorn-drawn lightning chariot, while Dark Pit just fucking shoots you with his Dark Pit staff. I mean, come on dude, he's even vegan where it doesn't matter. Due to these very strange and specific circumstances, I'm placing Dark Pit in the fully vegan tier, while his normal counterpart doesn't make the same cut.
Samus.
Zero Suit Samus is literally just Samus, but sans power suit. So we can work with some of our previous data. According to the available information on the Wikitroid regarding the Zero Suit, well, there isn't actually a lot of definitive info out there on the matter. mainly just speculative statements prefaced by vague non-canon phrases like, "it appears to be," and I'm not making judgment calls on clothing unless it's glaringly obvious that it's non-vegan, which the Zero suit doesn't appear to be. None of her attacks, including those from her paralyzer/plasma whip or jet boots, appear to be non-vegan. Her more sparsely clad alt outfits are presumably made from something like spandex, which is also vegan. Hell, I even scanned the interior of her ship that she flies in on, just to make sure that it wouldn't be some secret non-vegan sleeper agent with leather interiors, but everything checks out. I feel pretty comfortable tiering Zero Suit Samus in the totally vegan category. Okay, big boy Wario. He's got a leather belt here, leather fingerless gloves, leather straps for those goggles that he never puts on, leather shoes with what appears to be another color of leather sole on the bottom. That doesn't make sense, like, as a shoe. I'm assuming this is some ancient Japanese shoe tradition that I'm just culturally unaware of, but regardless, it looks like leather. Now, you can alternatively choose one of the classic Wario outfits, and I'm looking and I've asked around online, but I can't actually find an image of Wario's classic outfit in Smash Ultimate that's at a resolution as high as his primary one. It looks like it could be leather shoes. I really don't know, but it isn't important because if his bike seat isn't synthetic leather, well, he rides in on the bike when you start a match. Looks like leather to me. His most blatantly non-vegan aspect, though, is his neutral special. While I said that other characters like Yoshi and Kirby aren't necessarily eating their opponents when using their respective neutral specials, Wario straight up heals damage as he chomps down, which is probably the most frequently presented gamified representation for eating in all of video game history. In addition, you can also just eat animal products with his neutral special. With all of this said, Wario goes in the definitely non-vegan tier for normal gameplay, and the questionable tier if you don't use his neutral special for any non-vegan chomping. His name is Snake, which means that he is stealing the name of an animal. That is not vegan. Looks like this fake Snake goes straight into the definitely non-vegan. I'm just fucking with you. So Snake's outfit has what, at an initial glance, appears to be several leather components to it. I kind of assumed, knowing the meticulous nature of Hideo Kojima, that if I searched hard enough through the Metal Gear wiki, I could find the exact model number, factory, and materials sheet for all of Snake's equipment. I'd like to note, by the way, that I think it's cute that the Metal Gear Solid wiki has the tagline, Tactical Espionage Encyclopedia. The sneaking suit Snake wears in Ultimate most closely resembles the one worn by Solid Snake in Metal Gear Solid 2. The wiki gives a decent amount of information about his sneaking suit, including the material that the bulk of it's made of, but not the specific materials of each component, such as these boots and straps. For those, I assume that I would need to make a judgment call here like with other characters. Given the time in which Metal Gear Solid 2 is based, 2007, I figured it could be feasible that Snake, a top-tier special operations infiltrator, would be outfitted with something not so mundane as standard leather. But I really don't know enough about the subject to make a call with certainty. If this were naked Snake, I would very highly doubt it's anything but leather, both due to the time in which his game is based and the fact that this guy probably ate a fucking cryptid.
Snake, you caught a Tsuchinoko.
What? Hurry up and finish your mission and then bring it back to us. Under no circumstances are you to eat it, is that clear?
Like, holy shit, Big Boss is absolutely a bad guy. Anyway, I'm off subject. I don't have a ton of reason to doubt that Solid Snake wouldn't wear animal-based materials, unless of course it
gives you no tactical advantage whatsoever
in comparison to another material he had access to. It was on this note that I consulted a friend, my resident Metal Gear Solid expert.
Trust your instincts as a soldier, as a gamer.
Who proceeded to go into great detail in justifying Snake as being worthy of the totally vegan placement. And honestly, he convinced me. It's very likely that these materials are, in fact, synthetic leather polymers. Not due to some animal rights position, of course, but rather just sheer utilitarian efficiency. I am this close to putting Solid Snake, of all fucking characters, into the totally vegan tier. But my instincts instill me with doubt. It's the lack of total confirmation on the matter, the absence of absolution from God himself, that stays my hand in making this call. With a great deal of disappointment, and with apologies to my friend who did so much research on my behalf, I am regrettably placing Snake in the questionable tier. But that that could change if anyone can find something direct from the source on the matter. I, for one, am already shooting my shot, but I don't really expect much on that front. A fifth Fire Emblem character, and possibly the most leathered up of them all so far.
I'm looking for something that says, Dad likes leather.
Something that says, Leather Daddy?
Oh, is there such a thing?
Mike, due to his outfit and setting of origin, lands himself in the definitely non-vegan tier.
Pokémon Trainer.
You know, I wrote another fake out in my script here, but Pokémon Trainer doesn't deserve it. At this point, it's obvious. I've spent big chunks of the last 2 videos talking about how Pikachu can't be a vegan character choice because he pops out of a Pokeball. And here you've got one character with 3 different captured Pokemon. Look at that coward just standing there. He's just fucking hiding behind a fence while his beloved friends get the shit beat out of them. Oh yeah, better stretch. Gotta look like you're actually doing something.
Come on, coward. No. Come on. You're not an intellectual. You're a fake and a fraud.
Pokémon Trainer is a hard, definitely non-vegan tier placement.
Diddy Kong.
I assumed, based on Donkey Kong's performance, that Diddy would also slide right into the totally vegan tier, but when looking through his moves, I noticed the same offense that seemingly every character who wears something on their back comes coupled with: leather straps. The Donkey Kong universe is kind of vague, so, like others, we don't know if it's real leather. That makes his up special a no-go. In addition, you need to make sure not to select his up victory screen, as he flies in with that rocket pack. As a result, he goes in the questionable tier for normal play and the totally vegan tier if you don't use his up special or that one victory screen. Lucas has a lot of deceptively non-vegan aspects to his character that can only be truly assessed within the context of how he first obtained them. First, Rope Snake. While someone less knowledgeable of the series may initially believe that Lucas is oddly just keeping a snake in his pocket, those who have played Mother 3 will know that Rope Snake is a somewhat developed character in itself, first seen when purchased by Duster from a ghost in exchange for a rotten eclair. It's a weird game, but I really do recommend it. Rope Snake is a very willing member of the party and even undergoes a small character arc of sorts, which I won't spoil here, but fleshes him out as more of a sapient ally in my mind rather than an animal being exploited for some product or utility. Second, in a specific victory screen, Lucas pulls out one of the 7 needles from the earth, a very important aspect of the overarching plot to Mother 3. There are specious, but potential non-vegan philosophical implications to this action, but rather than getting into spoiler territory, I'll just advise that one should probably lean towards selecting right or up on the D-pad when choosing a victory screen. Lastly, Lucas is brought into battle on the back of a coffee table. The Mr. Saturn coffee table is a method of ambulation made by the Mr. Saturns that quickly transport Lucas and his party to Saturn Valley. The party climbs aboard this table to ride it, and it neighs with... it literally neighs. Like the sound of a horse, it neighs. And starts galloping in whatever direction the player chooses. There's like no info about what the hell this thing is, how it was made, if it's sentient. It honestly only exists in the game for like 5 minutes in a normal playthrough. A true fucking mystery. If we had just a little more info, I'd say Lucas would be all but in the total clear to join the totally vegan tier. But because of whatever the fuck this thing is, I'm gonna have to put him in the most strongly enunciated, questionable tiering of this list. By all appearances, and honestly unsurprisingly considering the roots of his series, rescuing small kidnapped animals, Sonic has 0 non-vegan moves or equipment. The only possible aspect I could see one calling into question would be his up special, which spawns a spring. But between the metal coil and what I imagine to be something like a rubber pad on top, I don't see why it would be called out as such. Not much else to say about Sonic other than I hate playing as or against him, but nonetheless, so long as the chili dogs he's eating are vegan, I gladly welcome him to the totally vegan tier.
Dedede.
Dedede has this big fur-lined coat and what appears to be leather gloves. It's probably becoming pretty tiring to hear this over and over, but like Meta Knight from the same universe, we don't know if either is synthetic, so at minimum Dedede isn't making it to the totally vegan tier. The first thing that may disqualify him fully from the questionable tier is his forward special, Gordo Throw, which throws a Gordo. I read through the Gordo article on both the Kirby Wiki as well as the Wikirby, which are two separate entities for some reason. But I can't find any definitive info on Gordos aside from their function as a hazard for Kirby. This is a classic move, by the way. Historians only recording the history of a creature in the context of how troublesome it was, not on its own merits or possibly what purpose it serves in its native habitat. Perhaps, for instance, fulfilling an ecological role, like protecting a region from the insatiable monstrosity that is Kirby. Gordos have eyes which blink, some of them move around. We can assume they possess a greater level of sentience than something like an oyster, which you'll see people debating about all the time whether or not eating those is vegan. We don't know if these Gordos are willing allies of King Dedede, or just kinda there to be tossed around at whim because they can't do anything to stop it. Curiously, in Brawl, Dedede also used to throw Waddle Dees and Doos, but I guess they ran out on him by the time Smash 4 rolled around. Honestly, I learned nothing definitive researching this. Lastly, his neutral special, Inhale. For the most part, it just does that whole put enemies in his mouth to hurt them thing. But he can also use this to eat some items. For instance, eating Wario's bike with its potentially leather seats, eating villagers' balloons, which we'll get into that eventually. He can even eat Pikmin, which we'll get into that literally next. Doing any of that couldn't be considered vegan, so for unrestricted play, I have to put King Dedede in the definitely non-vegan tier, and the questionable tier if not using his neutral special to swallow non-vegan things. And Alph. In Pikmin, you crash land on a planet and organize the local wildlife into a personal army to fight off other, scarier forms of local wildlife, so that you can rebuild your ship and escape back to your home planet. In Pikmin 2, you return to the same planet and use the local wildlife once again to strip the land of its resources for financial gain. Pikmin aren't plants. Let's make that clear from the get-go. I got blowback from some friends for this take at first, but even the Pikmin wiki states that they're semi-sentient plant/animal life forms, so straight away, pulling them out of the ground and using them as an easily dismissible weapon is 100% completely non-vegan. You can't play Olimar, or Alph, and not pull Pikmin out of the ground to avoid this either. Olimar plucks 3 up at the start of every round. If for whatever reason you're forced to play Olimar, or Alph, you have a moral imperative to spend the entire round running away from your opponent, only defending yourself using your neutral attacks, tilts, dash attack, and neutral air. Anything else would be rubbing salt in the wounds of your existing non-veganism. If you survive to the end of the round without losing a single Pikmin, then maybe, just maybe, you'll be able to look at yourself in the mirror without feeling complete shame. Anyway, being by far the least vegan character in the game, just plucking creatures from the ground and killing them without any care in the world, Olimar and Alph are confirmed definitely non-vegan tier. Lucario, originally seemingly a replacement for Mewtwo in Brawl, now instead fights alongside him as a comrade in ethical vegan combat. No offending actions on Lucario. Not a single special move, aerial, taunt, victory screen. Rather than emerging from a Pokeball, he just kinda is there, and then descends to the stage, ready to kick Karnast's ass and secure himself a slot in the totally vegan tier. R.O.B, even more so than Mr. Game & Watch, is such an enigmatic concept to quantify for a character that it's difficult to determine exactly what is and is not R.O.B. Is it the somewhat poorly received toy bundled with the Nintendo Entertainment System back in the 80s? Is it the digital representation of this toy that first began to appear in games like Game Boy Camera or Mario Kart DS? Is it only instances of R.O.B that have made appearances in the Smash Bros. Series so far? There's really no way to know what the right answer is here, so we're gonna have to limit ourselves to what we can see. Visually, R.O.B appears to be a combination of metal, plastic, possibly glass or rubber in a few spots, and unseen electrical components. While I can't find an answer regarding what plastic material the original R.O.B was made from, by all accounts it was likely polypropylene, impact styrene, or ABS plastic, but none of these materials will be able to stand up to what R.O.B deals with in Smash. Like for real, I can prove it. I mean, I guess you can't really apply this logic to any character in the game. Exposed flesh usually doesn't respond this well to a gunshot. All that aside, I've already established that I'm not holding characters responsible for the materials of their composition or circumstances of origin. R.O.B is too mysterious to make a judgment call on, but also has nothing about it that triggers my ever-owning non-vegan detectors. I think I have to put R.O.B in the totally vegan tier, but I'm keeping my eye on it. Like Link and young Link before him, Toon Link dons several pieces of leather accoutrement. He also chases a pig around and suspends it over his head until you intervene for one of his victory screens. As a result of his setting of origin, meaning that the leather is probably animal-based, Toon Link is placed in the definitely non-vegan tier. Coming in with way more individual leather straps than Fox or Falco combined, Wolf would be ranked lower, but is defended by the uncertainty of whether or not this is synthetic leather, and therefore, like so many others, can hide in the mystery of the ever-expanding, questionable tier. That is 47 of 89 total fighters. We're over the halfway mark, but there's still plenty left to get through. I'm tuckered out right now. I've been working and practicing Blender tutorials through multiple 15-plus hour editing days. I'm currently coming down from being zooted on amphetamines that were totally prescribed to me by a medical practitioner, so please forgive me for going my normally heavily scripted and edited footage in favor of this unedited tour of the fictionalized version of my childhood bedroom that I built for the intro. I don't have much to add to the main body of this video's content. I'm not living in a good place to do Twitch right now, and my new job eats up a lot of my weekly time, so that concept I brought up in the last video of possibly streaming vegan runs of games is shelved for the foreseeable future. I want to grow the channel. It's been over a year now since the first upload, and I don't know. I guess if anyone has any good ideas for something that a fledgling content creator can do to chase clout, I'm accepting ideas in the comments. As always, this has been Poor Dunce, hurling the final fleeting moments of his youth into the void for the entertainment of the abyss.